I don't know. I don't know where people are getting this stuff. You know what I mean? Are they reading a Chinese Bible?
Welcome to Fire TV. I'm Mama C, and today we are going to be reviewing some of the comments and questions from Woodward TV's latest interview on our channel, What You Need to Know About Trials, Tribulation and Revelations. Go and check that out. Also, Jay will be joining us to review some of these comments and give us some of his great answers and explanations. Hit that subscribe button and smash the bell so you know what we got coming up. Let's go to the comments. Up first we have Hillbilly Tarzan, and he says, "This is one of the best." Heathered Mist comments, "Corruption is in the church and synagogues. I miss the camaraderie within them occasionally, but this is why I've listened to Jay for years, and others. Good to be a new subscriber here too." Jamie Howard comments, "I love me some Woodward TV. He the bomb." One GD fella, I'm sure that's good fella Christ, family RCs for life comments, "This is awesome. At work, being productive, getting paid well, all while listening to my good brother Jae Woodward. God bless from upstate New York." Holonaut Psychotron comments, "I really like this. Well done, both of you." Little White Dove comments, "Just came over from WTV, was hooked on that one. Seeing it's just a piece of a longer show, I was thrilled to watch the whole show." One new sub here. Riverhawk comments, "This was absolutely fantastic. I love Jae Woodward. Thank you." The Dundada 707 comments, "Incredible! More packed in this video than the majority of conspiracy sats on video. Great job on you both." Jamo LaPlay comments, "Absolutely 100% great interview and discussion. I wish it could have gone on for 5 hours." Naomi Lily comments, "Amazing interview, guys. Well done." White Wolf gives us a positive comment. "Subbed, love Jay, and this interview was absolutely fascinating. Well done, everybody. Stay blessed." Crystal Crumb lets us know, "Great interview." Kedge Music comments, "Very dope combo, cuz." Charles Burton comments, "Fyaahstarr, I am grateful for the information you are presenting with Mr. Woodward. I have an unrelated question though. Were you ever a singer with Brand New Heavies or Incognito?" My response to you, Charles Burton, is no, I was not in the band Brand New Heavies or Incognito, but I do have a remake of the song Dreams, and you can catch that on YouTube. The link will be in the description box below. Graham Cunningham comments, "Mind blowing. Many thanks, guys."
So check this out. This is the voice of the South, Q Smitty. Make sure that you guys check out Fire TV. They bringing that fire, baby. Make sure that you subscribe, like, comment, all that, because if you're not doing that, you missing out on some great fire, baby. For real.
What was your question? Birdman Jr. comments, "Please, can you talk about the state of Israel, whether it was formed by the elite or God's promised land?"
Yeah, you gotta understand, there's a lot going on over there. In that whole entire area for years and thousands of years, thousands and thousands of years, it's high activity area. Israel is important, it's very significant. Now, how significant, I'm not really sure. I don't do a lot of research on Israel particularly, but I can tell you that it is significant. The location is more than the people there, if I can say. So it's, and that goes back to what when Jesus came to earth, when he was, in human form, he explained that, the Israelites were no longer God's chosen people. It was his sacrifice would make it so that everyone would have the same opportunity.
Really?
So, but Israel is a very significant location. There's a high level of paranormal activity over there because there's a lot of angelic beings there, in the earth there, and several other places around that area, and they're very active. That's why, you're just going to have constant, just a constant show over there. It's never going to end until it all ends. Elitists and globalists are those entities that they deal with lie to them all the time. So whatever they do, they could be doing it based on a lie, and they actually don't know what they're doing. They could be doing things for no reason, but that's because they're being fed lies all the time as well. And then they just feed us lies. So, but like I said, there is a significant thing. I think the more you look into it, you'll find some of those significant factors as well.
Hillbilly Tarzan, there's gonna be no earth after judgment. God vowed to destroy it with fire, it and heaven.
Yes and no. Yeah, in a sense, the earth will be in pretty bad shape when it's all over, when it's all said and done. We'll still be here, alive. And then from that point, we'll probably have a chance to rebuild, but because of the earth changes that will be occurring after that, it'll probably be a more plentiful earth, I guess you could say.
Wow.
And as far as the heavens, yeah, there'll probably be reconstruction. Well, not as far as it goes now, but those who fell, they'll be taken care of. So yeah, that reconstruction will occur. The system that we live in, such as the government, will be changed. So it'll be a government under God. So that'll be different. So there will be, I guess, figuratively and not figuratively, that there will be that destruction and change and, rejuvenation and regrowth and everything else. But as far as a complete reset, I don't believe that I haven't read anything that indicates that there is going to be a complete destruction of heavens and earth and then everything is remade. No, it doesn't fit into the plan. It doesn't really make that much sense if you think about it. That could have been done already if that were the case. If it had to progress to that point, then you're talking about something that's probably more evolutionary than, something that God planned out.
Flowers in Springtime gives us this comment. The New Testament is the great delusion. God never changes and won't be sending a sidekick to save his people. As in the days of the old, their power will save then, and that is the great I am that I am, as revealed to Moses.
Don't ever think that God won't do something. I mean, that's as clear as I can make it. I think of, you'd have to show me where and why that's the case. The first 5 books are Moses's books. And then from then on, you have prophets and apostles. Right, that is a different time period. So, I could see where people were getting that from, but, to me, it doesn't seem that there's 2 different people here. There's 2 different gods here. It seems like the same God to me. People do change. I know that's a fact. People have changed. But God, he said everything right from the beginning already. So it wasn't like he had to do anything afterwards. So all these, when I just did a video on divine intervention. Everything is maintained until he says change it. Until he says change it, or until he makes a change, everything is maintained. Unless he allows something to not be maintained, then it falls apart. It starts to crumble. It starts to shift. And that's what's happening a lot right now. That's what's happening to not just us, but everything. Every object in the solar system is changing. And that's a result of, if they're not maintained to stay the same, then they're just going to be left to their own device. They will change. The moon is constantly, it makes these tiny little micro adjustments, every second, it just constantly adjusting itself, which is not what a natural body in space does. You know, it just, there's no reason it should be doing that.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know. People have their opinions about that, and you know, they can investigate it, but you really dismantle the whole thing. And so where do you start from there? Good luck.
Jeanette Fitzgerald comments, how do you feel about Jordan Maxwell and Santos Bonasai discussing of the Jehovah's Witness and their connections with the Rockefeller family? They were both Jehovah's Witness at one time.
Yeah, I've heard several things. I've heard the founder, Russell, was a Freemason. I've heard things like that. I've dug into it. Yeah, that's not too surprising. Most religions are founded by these people. So what you say is so, and then you wait for the response. You're like, well, like, I mean, they confuse a lot of what these societies once were for what they are considered now. And I've mentioned this before, in these societies, they're like country clubs. So you go into a country club may charge you $100,000, $200,000 just as an initiation fee to get into their country club. And then you get access to the golf course and all the amenities. Those amenities and the golf course cost extra. So you have to pay for everything else still. You still paid that $200,000 initiation fee, then you have to pay for everything else in the club. Not only that, you have to pay a monthly due. You have to pay your monthly membership dues, okay? People do all that just so they can be in the same country club as Bill Gates, just so they can be in the same country club as, you know, any of these presidents and people who are affluent, who have power, who have connections, because all they need to do is talk with them and they can get things done that way. So that $200,000 plus was actually an investment for business deals that can make them millions of dollars. And so most people who get into these organizations, into these commissions and groups, these secret societies, they do it for that reason, for connections, for deals and things of that nature. Most people, that's what most people are in it for. Then you have higher ups who stay in it for a very long time, and they start getting exposed to more things, more traditions, more things they used to do in the past. And they become more elite minded. They become more condescending in nature. They become more elitist, those people, okay? Then you have a few who are corrupt, you know, they're criminals. You know, that's a very small percentage, but they have the most power. And then you have some who are just evil. That's the very small percentage in those groups. And those are the ones who are into all this demonic stuff, okay? So there's levels to it, but for the most part, that's who these groups are. And that's why they're so widely integrated in society, because for the most part, most of them are your basic level members, okay? It's only people who you see, you know, in high positions of power, who are upper level members, who are trying to be the globalist. They're trying to get in, and some of them are willing to do these crazy things, these crazy rituals to become a primary premium member, you know? So that's my take on the whole society, you know.
Ben Davis comments, could hemp be the myrna, or however you spell it, God fed the Jews in the desert?
Oh, that I'm not sure. It could have been a different type. It could have been a completely different food source that doesn't even exist today. You know, that was I don't know how many years ago that was. There's new food it's not always, not all, like there's animals that don't exist anymore. There's foods that don't exist anymore. So it's just could have been one of those. A lot of plants have that, ability to be food, medicine. Um, and, I think it's, I'm not sure. I haven't really looked into it, the manna, to try and figure out what it actually was. Because I assumed, like, okay, if it did exist, it wouldn't, it would probably be in a different form, through the as plants change and adapt, and different nutrients in the soil. So I'm pretty sure it doesn't have the same qualities as it once had, but as a food source that you could survive on.
Heathered Mist comments again. As a Jew who believes in Jesus, may I suggest that you download the Hebrew alphabet, a Hebrew translator, and gematria, which is the numerical values of each Hebrew letter and not numerology. To prove a version of the Bible, use these tools in a chapter. I've been wanting to tell Jae this for quite a while. All letters in the Hebrew alphabet also have a meaning. This enables you to find the correct meaning of a word within a sentence. It is eye-opening as well as informative.
I think what people forget is that the angelic world, that whole realm, is very, how should I say, it's very mathematic. There's a lot of math and numbers that are involved in that world. So it does come out in the text. It does come out. It does show in time period and dates and time and things like that. Everything is almost done that way. When it comes to God and how he operates, everything is done that way. He waits 1,000 years for things to occur. He waits. He has appointed times. He's very calculated. It's very, very precise, So yeah, you could look, I mean, depending on how the person deciphers it, makes all the difference. Because if you get 10 different people trying to decipher the same thing, it's probably going to come out 10 different versions of it. Some things might match up, some things might not. But for the most part, you could use, numerology or whatever have you. It probably won't get you. I don't understand what benefit you would get from it other than what's already written. I don't know if there's any more information people need to, other than, I think people are believing that there's some secret, that there's something that God hasn't told them, or that is like, oh, I'm gonna hide it so only the wise and the most smartest person will know, and then they'll benefit from that. But I don't believe that's the case. I think it's fun, it's interesting, but I don't think it really goes anywhere. I think it's tough. I don't think people live long enough to be able to sit there and start decoding the Bible. It's just too much information. And then Hebrew text, yeah, you're gonna need a lot of time, and it's gonna take a lot of, that could be something to do as a hobby, or if it's your profession, then great. But other than that, for the average person, it's probably something, you probably can look into for a little bit, but I wouldn't keep going on and on and on with it, because it's just going to give you something else to do, and it's not really going to lead you anywhere. It's not going to give you any secret information that isn't already in plain English.
The next comment from AB says, when we all ascend into the fifth dimension, when Jesus said that he would already be waiting for us on the new earth, because he had already transcended to the fifth dimension.
I would have to say, what are the fourth, third, and second, and first dimensions? I don't know. Did we go from the third to the fourth, and then now we're in the fourth, and then we're going to the fifth? Who said we're ascending anywhere? So there's a lot of questions I could ask about that question. I think where people are getting a lot of ideas, people use the word rapture. That's not even a word in the Bible. That doesn't mean what they think it means. And there are instances where it gives people that idea, but there's only a few verses where people are getting this idea. So, but Jesus makes it very clear. I think if people will research what Jesus says about people ascending, they can't be listening to what other people around them are talking about, or where other places. Jesus's word, he says what it is. There's a certain number of people that are sealed for this particular duty, to help rebuild and rule the new kingdom. And the rest of everybody else stays right here to rebuild and continue what was supposed to had been started in the first place. We don't even know our true potential because we never got that far. We got to a certain point, and the first humans, they didn't even get to reach that full potential. Everything got cut, it got stopped, and they got kicked out, and man has been losing his perfection ever since. So the state we're at right now, we're the most imperfect generation of all. Yeah.
Wow.
Even though we do a pretty good job at trying to play like we're all advanced, but no, we're probably the dumbest age of people. We're probably the most toxic age of people. Weak in spirit in a lot of things. And that's why everything has to be, we have to be allowed to be human beings first before I don't know why anyone would have a desire to live in the unknown.
Amen.
There's no descriptions about what life is like out there or in the heavens. There's not one. There's not one who's, there's not like, what are you going to, like, this is what I'm trying to understand. Like, what is going to be your purpose to be in the heavens with God? You have a purpose here. And that was the intent right from the beginning. And it stays his intent. It's not going to change because we wanted to, or because the devil did something. No, once that's all over, he's going to start over once again. And now we're going to be put to the test again, because, after the 1,000 years is unleashed, according to that narrative, and but this time it won't work, because we would have had 1,000 years or so without influence from that dark force. So we would be on our own with only the influence of God. So mind you, so now we would have, at that time period, which would be a great time period, where we have nothing but God. You don't have the devil anymore. He's out of the way for now. But we have all that time to rebuild and to improve ourselves, so we could have a long time to grow younger and to be, at our peak, at our prime. So when that evil force is unleashed on us again, it won't be an issue. And that is the point where he'll be destroyed. And from that point on, it will maintain. Those things that were maintained will be maintained again. Right now, it seems like all the maintenance guys are leaving. So asteroids are just flying all over the place. The moon is changing, the sun is changing, Mars is changing, the earth is changing, because all those guys are going hands off. All these angelic beings are going hands off. They're like, gotta let it happen, and then we'll go hands on again once everything is. That's how I'm just trying to give you a perspective of how things might play out. Who knows what the interactions of these beings are as of right now? We can only look at ancient texts to see what they're doing, as of right now. So we really don't know. And, that could be a possibility as well. So
Tammy Bennett comments, I tend to believe exactly how the Bible states it happened. The Bible was inspired by the word of the living God. The word is living. It is God. Any God-fearing Christian knows this. In the beginning, it was the word, and the word was God. And this manifested in flesh. Speaking in tongues is biblical. Be careful who you follow. And you be careful, Jay, how you teach man. You have a responsibility with your platform. Some of your biblical views seem to be made up as you go. Folks, study the word yourself. My people perish for lack of knowledge. That's biblical.
Yeah, speaking in tongues is a form of something you shouldn't be doing. I don't know. I don't know where people are getting this stuff. You know what I mean? Are they reading a Chinese Bible where it's been edited to suit their needs? I don't know, but no, come on, man. No.
Come on, man.
Speaking, like, there's going to be groups of people out there who you're going to see religious leaders do this. That doesn't mean I think it's the religious leaders who are causing a lot of these issues. And people are looking to them as authorities because they're supposed to be educated in this stuff. But the religious leader is only concerned about their own church, how they're going to benefit from this. There's not a lot of religious leaders who are authentic in how they present information to people. People who speak in tongues, they're not all real. And if they are real, there's no Holy Spirit, there's no angelic being, it's all demonic. That doesn't happen anymore. That wasn't things that were, one of the differences between the Old Testament and the New Testament is that a lot of the way God used to communicate with people, that got cut. As soon as Jesus came down, he said, this is their final message. If they don't get it after this, they don't get it, because I'm not going to talk to anybody anymore. I'm going to send you down there. You're going to talk to them, and that's going to be it. But I've cut community, because remember back in days of Abraham and Moses, God would speak to them almost directly. I'm not sure if that was there were angels involved in that, but I think Moses describes God's voice as like thunder. He had to whisper to him because he was too powerful to speak to him, in a normal tone. So
Wow.
Yeah, I mean
Comment by Jace J. Sorry if that's not how you pronounce it. Bible was written by people on mushrooms. Also, Yahweh, Jehovah, is Enlil in the Sumerian tablets from the planet Nibiru. Noah's flood chronologically is 3,600 years ago, same as Nibiru's orbit. Vedic scriptures talk about the Kali Yuga, a 25,600 cosmic cycle of our constellations. And as of the December 21st, 2020, we entered the age of Aquarius, a sign that the Iron Age had ended. This is what Yeshua was talking about in the Bible, the indicator of the end of times and when the apocalypse, or in Greek, unveiling, would occur. I could go on and on. I was born and raised 4th generation in the Hemitic order of the Golden Dawn Society. Jehovah's Witnesses are part of that branch. John Allegro, Mushrooms and the Sacred Cross.
Looking at different sources, Enlil and Enki are not the equivalent to Yahweh. They have their creator. I believe it begins with an A. I believe it's either Anu or there's an absolute supreme being in the Anunnaki lore. It's not Enki or Enlil. Those are the lesser gods. Those are the lowercase g gods. The Dead Sea Scrolls, there are stories about how some of the people who were writers were that could have been on some substance or something like that. Even John was supposedly high when he wrote Revelation. Chinese used to get high before they wrote a lot of their stuff. So yeah, there's a lot of that going on. Even yourself, if you've ever taken any substance, and written something, it's, oftentimes it's not that it's inaccurate or anything like that. It may be even a little bit more elaborate and a little bit more emotional and creative. Yeah. So, and a lot of those people believe that, yeah, you needed to be in a heightened state to get that spiritual insight to write these things out, And I'm pretty sure, yeah, at times some of these people who have documented these things weren't 100% sober, I guess you could say. I think according to the time frames here that whatever it is, and I believe it's a binary star, and when it comes around, that's when we have these major events. The Great Deluge being one, the 10 plagues in Egypt being another time period. I think also the crucifixion was another time period. When it does pass by each time, it's the severity of it changes. But I think this time is going to be the closest it's going to get, and it's going to be extreme. So the first time, probably, I think it passed prior to there being the flood a few times, and I think those cases was more severe. The deluge was somewhat significant because that, with that, I don't know what type of dynamics were going on back then for nature to create it. Of course, God causes it to happen, but that was in his plan. But I'm not sure what the dynamics of the earth were. You have water coming up from out of the ground as well as from the sky. So, you have this chamber of water that's created, and that's just going to wipe out everything. That's an extreme event. That's pretty severe. And I think people would have to look into what was being seen in those days as far as signs, but they were already given an ultimate warning anyway. So it doesn't really matter if they needed, they didn't need any more signs. People were already, most of the people who were good people were already dead before the deluge. There was really only Noah and his family left. You gotta remember, Noah was really old, but everybody else, their lifespan was cut short. So all the good people before that, they died off. The only people who are left are pretty much the wicked and evil people, the giants and all that crazy stuff. And they got all wiped out by the flood. In this case, when we're not going to be treated the same way. There's not going to be any real division like that, back in those days. It's everything, a lot of the preaching that people are doing is going to end. And that's when you're going to know that this thing is coming around. So it looks like it's coming around again, but how severe is it going to be? We don't know, because we don't know how far it was the last time it came, or the time before that. We know nothing about it, unless there are some documents about similar objects. We don't know if that's what we're talking about here. And some people think it's a planet. Some people think it's a mini constellation, which is just a star with a bunch of little planets rotating around it, orbiting it. And that gets near to us, or if it somehow crosses paths, that could be devastating. All the energy coming from this star is what's going to cause all this. It's not like anything is going to crash into each other. It's just that you have two stars. One has to feed the weaker star feeds off the stronger star. The stronger star gets dimmed, and the weaker star burns bright for as long as it's close by. Once it leaves our sun, the weaker sun at that point starts to build back up and stabilize and normalize once that thing starts to head back out again. But we don't know the length of time that it does that. We've been waiting for this thing to come for the past more than a decade now. People have been looking out for the Planet X and Nibiru. Yeah. But and people, even when this thing first started, people were showing pictures of this thing right next to the sun. some time went by, they couldn't find this thing anymore. And then pictures resurfaced again where you see objects next to the sun look like a second sun, things like that. Even to this day, you don't get that. People would have to know the exact coordinates of where this thing is if you're gonna be able to spot it. If you don't know the coordinates, forget about it. There's too much space for you to try and look for something that's probably not lit. So not only do you need to know exactly where it is in the coordinates, you have to have the optics to see it. And if you don't have the optics, you got to be a genius to look at the other objects that are lit around it to determine the size and shape and the speed of this thing. And that's what they do in the labs. But, you know, it gets obscured when things like that get published. There's certain clues. Actually, there's clues in ancient texts too. Like the planets, like everything in the solar system weren't always the distance they are now. So you have some texts that describe Saturn being the size of the moon, where you can clearly see it in the sky. Jupiter and other planets, you know, just like when you see in those fantasy photos with the planets in the sky. So yeah, you know, there's things like that, and there's all types of clues that point to some other body out there. But it's more recently come to light, I guess, because the Earth changes that are occurring. Dark matter, yeah, well, it's the empty space between matter. Space, right? We think it's empty, but it's actually, that emptiness has properties in it. So that's what, you know, when you have light energy, we have photons. The opposite of that would be where there are no photons, there's still energy there. That's what would be considered dark matter. Okay, so if you have a dark room where there is no light, there's still energy in that room, but it's not matter. And you know what I mean? When you go to a lit room, that for those photons in the room, that's matter. That's actually physical matter, photons. But that's what lights up the room. When you go into a dark room, there are no photons, but there's still energy there. That would be considered dark matter.
Laura O'Neill comments, horror movies open up demonic portals. You need to stop watching them and stop porn also. CERN physicists have committed suicide.
Yeah, there's several ways to get people to open themselves up for infestation. Okay, if it gets beyond infestation, that's usually on the individual. But yeah, you watch enough horror films, you open yourself up to these demonic entities, and they'll try to use that to further break you down. But that's very surface level. Okay, it takes a very weak spiritual person to succumb to that. Same thing with music, how they try to, that doesn't work. A lot of these things don't work. It's only when people are interested in it. Like if they want to see something occur from as a result, if they are intrigued by it or want to learn more, that's how they work their ways into your life and home to infest it. Not so much just because you're simply watching violence or blood on television and things like that. But it definitely, portals, that's what, I mean, you're not opening a portal per se, but you are figuratively opening up because they're there. They're all around us. They don't have to go through any portal. It's just a matter of what they will be allowed to do to you from a higher power. Wow. Okay. If they are allowed to do, you know, but that has a lot to do with the individual too. So if they infest your home, if they infest your life, things, you can't get to the point where you break down where it becomes harassment. Because they'll go from an infestating to harassing you. And that's just to further break you down. There's a whole process. Like there's a whole process to like demonic possession and how they get into people's lives. And there's like ex-cult leaders can tell you how it works. They'll be very upfront with people about how they used to do rituals and what they were meant to do and how they put curses and things like this on people. It's dark stuff, but it's educational. It does give you a little bit of insight as to how a lot of this stuff works. But yeah, that's basically how it's done. Children are very susceptible to this. Like there's children walking around with all types of issues that are demonic issues, you know.
Heather missed comments again saying, sorry brother, I disagree. Yahushua is not Michael. Michael is a top archangel. If he had been given the power of Adonai, he could have defeated Satan, but he could not. Michael only threw him out of heaven. It's for this reason too, I believe, that Satan is not merely an angel, as the Roman Catholics profess, but that Satan is left hand of GD, while Jesus is the right hand of GD, which is God.
Well, I mean, he's mixing. Well, it's a hard question to answer because you're mixing a figure of speech with reality. So you know, when you're talking about left and right hand. So who is Jesus in heaven? You know, I mean, I guess you could ask them that question. If he's not Michael, then who is he in heaven? Is he Jesus in heaven? You know, I mean, we could go talk about this, and I think I covered it before. Like, I think we talked about it earlier on, that there's this, whatever's written, that's what's written. You don't get to say, well, what if, how do you, I don't know how people go about doing that. Like, they're instructed to do certain things, and that's what he was instructed to do, was to throw him down to, everything is, they're told. It's, it's not something they took it upon themselves, or he had an inability to do it. There's an example of the young boy who was possessed. I think 6,000 plus demons were this child was possessed with, and Jesus came to exorcise those demons. And those demons were like, "Whoa, what are you doing here? It's not time to go yet." See, they thought he was there to destroy them, because God said you have only. Yeah, so Jesus apparently is the one who's going to be doing the destroying. So. If so when he came around, they got all freaked out about it. He's like, oh, your appointed time is your appointed time. Just get out of here. That's basically pretty much what happened. But they know him as who he is, other than his human form, And I think people forget that. And like, he's had a presence before he was Jesus Christ, you know what I mean? So who was that entity? So I'm like, the closest one who even fits that description is Michael. All the other angels do not fit the description as the head guys, as the main guy, is that guy. He's that dude. So all those qualities of Michael the archangel are in Jesus Christ. And I don't even know, like, if people are making that comparison. If you go look at all of her information, go dig up all the information you can on the Archangel Michael, and dig up all the information you can on Jesus, and then you can make your own comparisons and come to your own opinions about it.
Another Day in Paradise comments, they. Who are they?
They are anyone who is implementing the plan. So if there is any plan out there, if there is any agenda, if there's any corruption going on, those who put that together. So that could be It could be a few, it could be several people. They could mean several people. In most cases, I think what most people think of when you say they is the shadow government. Not necessarily the surface government we deal with every day, but the government beneath it, the shadow government, the people behind the scenes, the people who are, going to different countries, making deals with different allies and sometimes adversaries. So, that's who they are, the ones who are pulling all the strings behind the curtains and everything like that. The shadow government. I guess that's what most people think of when they think of who they are. But other than that, I don't know who else. There's a different they, the ones you could call fallen angels, these demonic entities. That could be considered, but in most cases when I'm talking about they, I'm talking about human beings. So I'll reference dark entities as dark entities or as fallen angels, but when I say they, it's probably more the shadow government, the secret government, with a few public players, who are probably labeled globalist, and they could be considered as part of they.
Questions from Anon. I did actually used to think Anon was a person, but it means anonymous. So you've learned something today. Anonymous questions are:
You don't know me like that.
what's your opinion on the transgender and transhumanism movement and its role in society today?
It's nothing new. It's been done before. It was done during the days of Noah. A lot of these things were done. A lot of things people don't know, that a lot of the things we're going through right now happened as well. They had vegans. They had the whole vegan movement back then, before the flood. Yeah, they had this issue with people not eating meat and things like that. And it was a big issue back then. They had, transhumanistic movement back then as well, where people were, into all types of things. It just, there was a complete abandonment of anything moral.
Damn, son, where'd you find
And that's where we're headed, where we used to have standards, but now legislation and a lot of political movements have been made to destabilize all that. So what we now enter into is a world where, you're going to have all types of transhumanistic moves made by people. And it's just going to broaden and get wider, more widely spread, and more bizarre. I've seen videos these days. There's this video I just saw where this guy cut a slit underneath his mouth so that he could have two mouths. So he could stick his tongue out through each mouth. Yeah. So, people aren't holding back. I mean, we've seen tribes and certain isolated tribes around the world, do things to their piercings to their body. These let me tell you something. That is not, those ideas don't come from holy things. Those ideas come from unholy things. And so that's why they do that to themselves. Even though people can argue, oh, it's culture schmulture. That's what they've done. That's what they do to people. This is what they influence people to do. It's a separation from, they try to separate from what makes you human. It's almost like it's an abandonment of God's principles, in a sense, to take on their own identity and to worship their own deities.
Wow.
That's what it's going to come down to. They're going to be worshiping their own deities, just like they were. Probably bring back some of the old ones.
The final Anon question. What's your advice to anyone listening right
Turn
now?
off the news. Don't watch it. If people weren't watching news, we probably wouldn't be in the situation we're in right now. But they do. So here we are. If they didn't, probably wouldn't be. Probably nobody would know about COVID or anything, any of this stuff. You know, that's where all this stuff stems. This is where all this information gets spread throughout, and it affects people when it doesn't have to affect them. So, you know, I just say turn off the news. What do you need it for? To find out who died? You know, I mean, you didn't die, your family, you know, I mean, you got to take care of yourself and your family, your friends, everyone else on the outside. You know what I mean? That's really not your business. It's not, you know, your concern. They try to make it your concern. They try to get you to believe that it is your concern. But in life, we come to know that, okay, I'm going to check what the weather is going to be. If it's going to storm, you know, of course I need to know before I go to this certain location. You know what I mean? I'm not really concerned about what people are going to be there when I get there, you know? So we're going to have to maneuver through life in a way that is more beneficial to us in these times, because a lot of things are going to happen in catastrophe. And so people are going to lose their lives and lose jobs, and the infrastructure is going to break down. It's going to be like a slow but total collapse. And what people are going to need to do is they're going to need to separate themselves from the constant bombardment with the lies. And they're not even sure, you know, when they tell you one thing and then they change it another. That should tell people that they've wasted all that time listening to them in the first place. So it's very important to, if you're going to find out what's going on, you have to pick sources you trust. And you really have to pay attention to them closely, because sometimes they can give, you know, out the wrong information, or maybe they can give the wrong impression. But anything mainstream, anything, you know, all the major news networks, forget about it. They're useless. They're worthless. They absolutely have, these media companies actually destroy lives. And yeah, you're better off just, you know, knowing people who are looking at this information that can give you the correct information that you need, and not, you know, just random bits of chaos that actually don't affect you at the moment, but they want you to believe it does.
Thank you. Come again.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime.
Bye-bye.
All right, take care.